Good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here today, and it's great to see such a packed room of this network coming together. I've been in the employee services role, as Rose said, since last December. Kathy talks about 3 months of cognitive overload. I'm starting month 11 and a half of cognitive overload. But I love it. I do come back to work every day because I love it. And I think all of us that work to support the system I don't think it's always understood about the challenges that we deal with in the background so that those in the foreground with students can do the work they need to do. And I want to thank you for your role in doing that. I want to thank the Schedule II Network Executive. We talk a lot about celebrating, and I think we actually need to not just talk about it, I think we need to do it. I get to work with your representatives in the background supporting you. And I haven't gotten to work with all of the executive, but for those that have organized this morning's event and for the executive I work with more regularly, I do want to thank Ralph, Anne, Rose, Stephanie, and Ronnie. If you just want to raise your hands in case people don't know who you are. Thank you. The work that they do on your behalf to represent you is incredible, and we should all give them a round of applause to thank them for that. I want to thank you for the critically important work that you do, not just as part of this network, but in the departments and work areas that you work in. Dr. Malloy talked about service excellence, and while we're formalizing the way we do that as a collective, I know that our Schedule II network employees have worked from a service excellence lens for a long time. They've always understood that they work collectively to support. I'm used to, as an educator, talking about students. I'm getting used to the word clients as I work centrally again. But you serve our most important clients, our schools and each other, so that our students, staff, and broader communities can have education for children in Toronto that's of the highest caliber. Sorry, getting a little choked up. The Toronto District School Board recognizes that your ability to effectively lead starts with you, but requires us as an organization to work collaboratively and supportively with you. And today I'm joined by the Professional Learning Unit. Unfortunately, Rita Simmons was in an accident last Friday, and she's recovering from that, and we hope to see her back to work in the very near future. And I want to thank Avtar, who will be introduced in a moment, for coming in on short notice to fill in. Something I'm going to say about the responsiveness of your leadership group. This change happened this morning, and I was very shocked to see on the PowerPoint Avtar's name and photo. So I don't know where you get all your information, but thank you for that example of excellent responsiveness. What Avtar is going to spend some time doing with you is talking about how Employee Services and the Professional Learning Unit are working to provide leadership development activities for Schedule II members as leaders in their own departments, in their own jobs, and to help them lead other people in becoming leaders. Because we know that this can't be attained without some formal processes and structures and activities in place. One of the things that was left on your table after you arrived was a flyer about our leadership and learning for business and operations staff. And it's amazing to me that in the months of November and December, that's just 8 weeks of work leading into a holiday time, there's 16 opportunities for leadership development. And so the commitment of this organization to support this group in particular is a high priority, and Avtar is going to bring an update as to that work. And one of the things, if we have time, we hope to be able to do is take your thoughts about the work we're embarking upon and continuing upon, because you need to help transform that work so it meets the needs of what you're doing in your different areas. When Avtar is done, I'll come back up to do a few employee services updates. There are 2 questions that your executive has sent my way already. I won't get into the answers, but they're about compensation and remedy payment. That's to keep you in your seats for after Avtar. And if there's time, I'll do a general Q&A from the floor if need be.
So on behalf of the Professional Learning, Training, and Leadership Development Unit, we're pleased to be able to offer various and a variety of leadership and learning opportunities for all Schedule II business and operations staff. And the reason being is because where wanting to equip you with the knowledge, skills, and the tools, resources that will enable you to support the 246,000 students that we serve and the 583 schools that we serve as part of TDSB. And to that end, our primary focus is really about building the leadership capacity of all staff. And we have various programs, as I mentioned, and today I'll be giving you an overview of those programs as it pertains to leadership capacity. Sorry. Notice where your clicker. And so if you think about it, we all have an opportunity, we all have the ability to impact and influence the achievement of the commitments and goals set out in our multi-year strategic plan. So as Dr. John Malloy alluded to earlier on, whether it's transforming student learning, whether it's providing equitable learning opportunities for all students and staff, whether it's allocating human and financial resources strategically, whether it's building partnerships and relationships with the families, students, and communities, or whether it's creating a culture of student and staff well-beings. If we look at ourselves, we all have the ability to influence the achievement of those goals. Leadership is probably one of the most transferable skills that anybody can hone. Regardless of what position you're in, regardless of what organization you're in, regardless of the situation in life that you're in, leadership is probably one of the most transferable skills. Whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in your professional life, we can all use leadership skills. I'm a father of a 3-year-old, and I would like to think that I'm a leader to him. I don't know if he thinks me of that way, but I would like to think that I need to be a leader for him. I'm also actively engaged in my community. I run an adult and youth basketball program at the local recreation center, and in my personal life, I see that as leadership. And then here with the TDSB, I'm a professional learning leader with the professional learning unit. So, I try to drive professional learning that's meaningful and impactful to all Schedule II and business and operations staff. So if you contextualize the job or the position that you're in or the role that you're in, if you contextualize the learning that you attend through the professional learning, you'll start to recognize how it impacts the larger goals of the TDSB, which is why our focus in primarily is leadership. And so what I'm going to cover are 3 different programs. We have programs for our aspiring and emerging leaders. We have a program for our newly appointed leaders and Schedule II staff. And we also have a program, Have No Fear, for our seasoned business managers, supervisors. So for those that have been in the role for 5, 10, 15 years. And so I'll be covering that at a very high level. So we'll talk about Leadership for All. Leadership for All has been implemented since 2017, and this is for our aspiring leaders, our emerging leaders. And the beauty of Leadership for All is really about providing an opportunity for anyone and everybody at the TDSB, including the academic side. So, we're talking about teachers, we're talking about lunchroom supervisors, and we're also talking about the business and operations side. Anyone that is looking to just get a taste of what leadership might be like at the TDSB. Right? If you're looking to explore leadership, Leadership for All is for you. And again, it's regardless of the position that you're in. And it's really an introductory level program that enhances the leadership skills. And it's an ongoing program that gives you a foundation to improve those skills or enhance those skills as you continue your career and maybe look for more formal leadership positions. It's recommended for those that are in, within 3 to 5 years of being at TDSB. So it's, again, on the academic and business and operations side, so it applies to everybody within the system. And the beauty of it is there's no nomination process, there's no selection criteria required. You can just put yourself forward and say, I want to be part of this particular program, and I'm going to make a commitment to going through the program. And we offer this program twice a year this year, so we just kicked it off a few weeks ago, and we had the pleasure of having Dr. Kathy Ridrow speak at our Leadership for All Foundation. And we'll have another one starting in January. So just to give you an idea, in October at our Leadership for All Foundation session, we had close to 100 people sign up and attend. And we anticipate another 100 people or so to sign up and attend moving forward in January. Since 2017, we've had approximately 430 staff take part in Leadership for All. So that just goes to show the commitment and dedication that you have all made to exploring leadership at the TDSB. Part of Leadership for All, we have somewhat of a roadmap. So it starts with Leadership for All Foundation, and then you also get invited or registered to 4 other modules. One is about equity and inclusion and anti-oppression. There's another module which you're invited to called Exploring My Leadership. There's another module called Leadership Effectiveness, and then there's a book study, which is a collaborative experience which allows those that are participating to take part and share thoughts about specific resources that they're studying and researching. Right? So it's really Leadership for All is a series of blended learning opportunities for all those that are interested. The second piece of aspiring leaders, so think of aspiring leaders as an umbrella, and then we have Leadership for All for anyone and everybody that's looking to explore leadership. And then the second piece of that is LEAD, so Leadership Excellent Achievement and Development Program. And so this program is really one step higher than Leadership for All. And this is really for those that want to start really getting into a formal leadership role. And so going through this program doesn't guarantee you a leadership role, but it will definitely prepare you for a leadership role if and when you're called upon to take on a formal leadership role. And so this program really talks about effective leadership and equitable practices, and it's really about preparing everybody to take on that next step in terms of leadership. And so this program is still in the planning stages, and there is a selection criteria, there is a nomination form that needs to be filled out by your executive officer and leadership team. But this is a step higher than Leadership for All for those that just want to continue their growth and development and leadership. So stay tuned in terms of more communications and more information about the LEAD program. And if you're interested, there's a process to follow in terms of getting that approval. That covers our Aspiring Leaders program. We also have our newly appointed program. So orientation for newly appointed Schedule II staff and business managers. And I had the liberty of going through this program back in April, and I see a lot of familiar faces here that were part of that program with me. If it wasn't for this program, I can honestly say I don't know if I'd be up here today or be able to deliver this presentation today. This program really covers everything from onboarding. It covers the TDSB's missions and values, the school culture. We talk about all our commitments in terms of shared leadership, equity, well-being, achievements, service excellence. It really gives somebody that's been newly appointed, newly promoted, or has been hired externally, such as myself. I came from externally. It really gives those folks a nice, solid foundation about TDSB, right? It gives us an introduction to various networks. You get the opportunity to meet people that are in similar positions as yourself, right? People that have been newly appointed, people that have been hired externally. And so, you go through the program as a cohort, and there's 6 different modules that you go through, and every time you go to a different module, you're going to see the same people. So it's a really nice experience, a really nice opportunity to network, and a really nice opportunity to just share best practices, right? And share different challenges or hurdles that we're encountering being newly appointed. This is a program that spans across approximately 3 months. And we run this 3 times a year, so that's just in order for us to capture everybody that has been newly appointed or everyone that's been hired within the last few months. So we had a program that kicked off in fall. We'll have a new program that's kicking off in winter, and then we'll also run another program that kicks off in the spring. So chances are, if you've joined TDSB recently, if you've been newly appointed recently, you're probably going to get an email from us to say, hey, we encourage you to come out, and we hope you can come out because, again, it's just super, super valuable to your career today and also moving forward. And have no fear, we also have an audience of experienced, seasoned business managers and supervisors, and we haven't forgot about you, right? The third piece of our leadership capacity is providing a program for experienced staff. And we're doing this through something we call the Communities of Learning and Practice. And this is an innovative way of really providing business managers a collaborative learning experience. And so it's not only about bringing you out to workshops or doing online training. It's really about having you engaged and doing some hands-on work. And so what does that mean? Through this program, again, this is also in the planning stages. Through this program, as experienced business managers, you're going to have the opportunity to be a mentor coach for some of our newly appointed staff and newly appointed business managers. So more communication to come, more information to come, but you will have the opportunity to really, get your hands dirty as it pertains to leading others through mentor coaching. We'll also, teach you about employee relations, interpersonal skills, leading teams, and also leading through equitable, inclusive lenses. So the Communities of Learning and Practice offers a variety of learning opportunities. And if you look at the handout that's on your table today, you'll notice between November and December, there's already a couple of offerings that will fall under the Communities of Learning and Practice. In particular, we're going to be delivering a program called the 4 Essential Roles of Leadership that are specifically for experienced managers. We'll also be delivering a program called The Working Mind, which is delivered through the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and that revolves around mental health and first aid as it pertains to leaders. So we have programs for our aspiring leaders, we have programs for our newly appointed leaders, and we have programs for our experienced leaders, and of course we have programs for all Schedule II staff. So we're doing a lot of exciting and interesting work, and we can only encourage you and hope that you participate in all the offerings that we're going to be delivering. A lot to cover, right? So we got a lot of programs going on, and so coincidentally, simultaneously, alongside our leadership programs, we're also offering a leadership and learning series. And the leadership and learning series is open to all Schedule II staff, again, regardless of your position. And the topics that we're focusing on, these are just some sample topics. We're talking about the 7 habits of highly effective people. We're talking about mental health and first aid, the working mind as it applies to employees in the workplace. So we have the business manager and supervisor version of the working mind, and we also have the employee staff version of the working mind. We have a program called Self-Leadership, and we also have virtual pop-up learning sessions that we're planning as well. So again, if you look at the handout on your flyer, you'll see which programs fall underneath the Leadership and Learning series. So with that being said, again, I can only encourage you to participate. You'll see more information, more communication come out from the professional learning unit. There's one piece that I want to cover, which is also part of our umbrella, and that's the compliance training. So I have my colleague, Danny Stante. Danny, you want to stand up? So if you know Danny, then you know compliance. If you know compliance, then you know Danny. So I just want to thank Danny for all the hard work he does as it pertains to the compliance side of the professional learning. And finally, we wouldn't have been able to do all this work without the help of the Leadership Capacity Committee. So if you are part of the Leadership Capacity Committee, can I just please ask you to stand up? Or if you have been part of the Leadership Capacity Committee, can I please ask you to stand up? Okay, great. So a huge thank you to the Leadership Capacity Committee. We wouldn't have been able to deliver these programs and design these programs without the input, without the feedback, and without the insight from the Leadership Capacity Committee. So just a huge thank you again, and we'll continue to move forward and continue to deliver this great piece of work. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Andrew Gold back up, but I just want to say a few words of thanks to Avtar. Thank you very much for coming today, especially on very short notice. Thank you for sharing the information. That is really important for us to hear, and for encouraging us to continue our learning and encouraging us to take opportunities to build in terms of our leadership, influence, and impact on achievement. And I was really happy to see up there that you mentioned the 7 habits of highly effective people. When I first began here, we didn't have something as set up as lovely as this, but you did have the program 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I have to say I truly enjoyed it, so I'm really glad to see that it's back on that list. So I'm going to invite Andrew Gold back up. Thank you very much, and thank you, Avtar.
Okay. So I'm going to start with answers to 2 questions I was sent ahead of time. And then we have a few extra minutes before the break, so if there's questions from the floor from an employee services perspective, I'll do my best to answer them or take them back to our team so that we can follow up. The first question in advance had to do, my guess is this question came around the same time that we were hearing information from the provincial government about executive compensation, broader public sector wage freezes. And for clarity, that does not have anything to do with this employee group. And so when central terms were agreed upon with non-union management groups at the central level, there was a 1% compensation increase that happened September 1st, 2018. There is another 1% that is still happening on February 1st, 2019. And then there is a 0.5% that's happening August 31st, 2019. So we know that when we hear certain things in the media, we sometimes think it means us. In this case, it didn't. The second question that's come forward has to do with, you may remember that now about 6 years ago, the government of the time imposed collective agreements on unionized employees to begin with. A whole bunch of stuff happened after that happened, and eventually there were charter challenges by a number of groups and interveners, and eventually a court decision that where Justice Lederer indicated that there had been infringement on the right of unionized groups to collectively bargain. And he left it to the parties to work out how that would be remedied, and some of the unionized groups that participated in that came to remedy with the government. One group still hasn't and is going to court for remedy, that's the elementary teachers. Our group, the Schedule II network, came to a settlement for non-union management staff, and I don't mean the Schedule II network and TDSB, I mean an agreement for all non-union management in the education sector. And the paradigm that this was done under, the way this was constructed was a little bit confusing, because the people who were negatively impacted by what happened were employees in 2012-13 and 13-14. Yet we're implementing a remedy in 2018, and the way the remedy was structured is we want to make sure we capture all the people who were negatively impacted at the time this thing happened. And so a total amount provincially was set, and an estimated amount per person was number crunched. Because the total amount is what it is, school boards, the actual employers, were tasked with figuring out who's impacted by this that no longer works for you, i.e. they worked from 2012 to 2014 and don't anymore. And unfortunately, there are people who work here now that weren't impacted by this and they're not party to the remedy. And the reason that work is important is the amount that each person is to get is going to be based on how many people are in the affected group provincially. And so the original plan was to have that number figured out and remedy payments out to people in the middle of the fall. But because of the complexity of identifying who's no longer here but is entitled, the government asked that we extend the timelines so that we do not leave anyone out of the process who's entitled to something. And so the government has extended the timelines. Our understanding is that we are expected to have more clarity on who should be entitled in the next couple of weeks. And I think we're still aiming to have remedy payments out this calendar year on a December pay stub. And as we get more clarity on that, because it has been an evolving situation, we'll share information, but that is the plan right now. So other than those two questions, I don't know if there's any general questions for employee services, since I happen to be here today. And if not, I'm happy with that too. So I'll just open up the floor. I wish all of my classes as a teacher were that easy. Thank you again for including us today. It was great to reconnect with many of you. Enjoy the rest of your morning.